Spent a lot of time talking about Shohei Ohtani, LA Times sports writer covering the Dodgers. Mike Digiovanna joining us on the program. Mike was at the press conference yesterday. How would you summarize what you saw, what you heard yesterday?
Yeah, it was really interesting. Honestly, I was surprised that Shohei said as much as he did. So often in these situations, we get there's an ongoing investigation. I can't comment on it. We're going to let the authorities handle it, and then we'll talk afterward. And he came right out on the offensive. He was very assertive, very forceful in his denial of any speculation that he has bet on sports, that he's bet on baseball. And he really turned the tables on his now former interpreter and former confidant and friend, basically accused Ippei of being a liar and a thief. So it was very interesting. The tone of the room was very interesting, a little different than a lot of the Shohei Ohtani press conferences we're used to. But he went on the attack, and it was very clear.
What wasn't answered yesterday?
To me, the two biggest questions, well, the biggest one is kind of obvious. It's like how, if indeed Ippei Mizuhara siphoned off millions of dollars, from Shohei's accounts, how did this happen without, the people who handle his finances and Shohei himself without knowing that? And to me, the other issue is, how Shohei was so much more than an interpreter. I'm sorry, Ippei was so much more than an interpreter for Shohei. He was around him almost every day of the year, all day, and how does a guy supposedly have such a gambling problem that he's racked up millions of in debt without anybody knowing? And, even if Shohei emerges from this scandal unscathed, his reputation in the game intact, I think, he's going to have to take a closer look at the people in his inner circle, the people handling his affairs, because they put a lot of trust in Ippei to do a lot. He was a liaison between, the Dodgers, the Angels all those years, and Shohei, between his agents at CAA and Shohei, between the media and Shohei. And to entrust that much in one guy and to have him betray you like he supposedly did is pretty disturbing.
If you could ask one question, if it's to Shohei or Ippei.
Oh, boy. Well, all the questions I just mentioned, to Ippei, why did you do this? Why did you think you're going to get away with this? And, what was he thinking? This guy was attached. I hate to use the term, but, kind of a bit of a gravy train, for the next 10 years. I'm sure Shohei made a lot more in tips and just from being around Ippei, I'm sorry, I keep mixing these two up, than he did in salary. And, he's got, a front row seat to one of the most amazing stories in the game. And to think you would just throw that all away is stunning. And to Shohei, how did this happen, under your watch? How did this happen right under your nose? And, you could tell in the press conference, he felt very betrayed. And, there was a tone in his voice. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know Shohei that well, but I've been in dozens of interviews with this guy over the last 6.5 years. And I felt like, he's usually very composed, very measured in his comments. And I felt a forcefulness and an assertiveness yesterday in his voice that was maybe like one octave below anger that we don't normally hear from Shohei. And I think that's why he sounded, at least to his teammates and Dodgers. And I think if you saw the press conference, he sounded pretty convincing.
I was curious about this. I don't know if anybody brought this up to Shohei, but here's the interpreter who has lied about working for the Red Sox and the Yankees. Like, Shohei has to know that this guy has said that he worked for the Yankees and the Red Sox, but he knows that he didn't work for the Yankees and the Red Sox. Like, there's certain things that I would think would be normal. Like, wait, you didn't work for the Yankees, or why are you saying that? And then you're going to trust him being basically your valet. I don't know. It just kind of stood out. It was just weird.
Yeah, it goes to the vetting process,
Yeah.
The Dodgers don't have a great track record, let's face it, with Trevor Bauer over the last few years. And I'm not saying, they did background checks on Ippei. They talked to him after the signing, and they met with him. And from what I've heard, the agent really vouched for Ippei, and but yeah, there's a vetting process that obviously didn't take place here. I mean, some of these things are in the really short bio that's been in the Angels media guide for several years, and it's hard to pin the blame on the Angels PR department for not doing background checks on them. But yeah, it's very odd. Why would you lie about going to UC Riverside? If lie, I went to Harvard, I went to Yale, I graduated magna cum laude.
But it is a smaller lie, though, Mike.
Yeah, and the bigger issue is like when you're lining up stories, when Ippei, changed his original story that he told to ESPN 180 degrees the next day, and then you layer on top of that these little fibs, his credibility is shot. And I don't know. It's hard to know what to believe out of this guy.
What's next for the LA Times on this story?
We can't tell you that.
Oh, okay. Well, I just thought I would ask.
We're digging as hard as we can. We're trying to fill in some of the gaps on Ippei's resume. Trying to have a beat on the. There's 3 different investigations now, and the MLB.
Is Ippei still in the States?
I don't know for sure. We have had reporters at his parents' house. We were told in no uncertain terms to go away. I've asked many of the Japanese reporters, and they have not. He has not been seen in the States. He's going to have to emerge at some point because there's some federal investigators that are probably going to have a lot of questions for him. And he's in a heap of trouble. Let's face it. If these allegations against him are true, he could be looking at jail time. Maybe not. A lot of these situations they're going after the bookies, not so much the bettors, but the other aspect.
But he's got to pay Ohtani back, doesn't he?
Yeah, stealing money from Ohtani.
Restitution.
Yeah. If that allegation is true, that's a problem for him.
Mike, good to talk to you. Great stuff by the LA Times. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
All right. Mike Digiovanna, LA Times sports writer covering the Dodgers and Major League Baseball.